And we're live, and now we are recording, so we're on the record. So it's Geoff and Jeffrey with our inaugural weekly catch-up.
Mm-hmm.
That was an original title, yes. What an original title for
the weekly catch-up, yeah.
Weekly catch-up. So we've been very regular with this weekly catch-up. We caught up in about November 2015, and then we did last week. So it's a very regular weekly catch-up about.
Oh yes, I think it should be another 6 months before we're back. Yeah,
that's right. So, but the whole idea is that both of us, we can get onto here and just start talking with it. We'll just have a chat for 5 minutes, but a couple of hours later that finishes. So if we have a weekly catch-up, that limits us to say an hour, and then we'll just shut up and come back again next week.
Yeah, if we know we're coming back, then there's nothing so urgent that we can't shut down when we're ready to, and you can actually get some sleep.
Oh well, that's right. Yes, because it'll be 10. Well, it's 9 o'clock, nearly 9 o'clock now, so it'll be 10 o'clock when we finish. But I always have to watch something on the TV before I go. I can't just sit in the front of the computer then go straight from there. I just can't sleep. I've got to wind down after the excitement of Blab.
I do. When I work night shift, it's exactly the same way for me. But I'm sleeping during the same basic period of time that you are.
I thought you.
But I sleep during the day. What was I going to say?
I thought you was going to say I sleep during the Blab.
No, yeah, well, I actually, this is a face. I'm actually back here asleep. This is just a facade. No, what I've been doing tonight is. Overnight, we watch TV probably till about midnight or so, and then I've been editing on the audiobook that I've been working on, and coming up with finished files for each chapter and things like that. I'm just getting started on that part of it. I've been working a lot of overtime, so I haven't had as much time to work on it, but I've got until a little past the middle of April to get it done. So I'm just getting a process down to where it'll all come out exactly the same. So that's what I'm working on.
I got inspired from your comments last week, so I thought I'll go and get a chapter to record, and I recorded it, and I was so bad. I tell you, I made so many mistakes, but I knew when I was recording it because I thought, no, I've got to say that again. I've got that wrong, and I was starting editing it last night, and I was on page 1 of it, and about 20 minutes later, I thought, I'm going to be here for the next week. I thought if I was Geoff, would have done a whole book. But that's the thing. You do it badly, and then that's why you got to keep practicing. I haven't done it for a couple of months because no matter, you can read it perfectly without the mic on, but as soon as you get the mic on, you tend to stumble and say things wrong again. But what I find really hard is I've said it wrong, and then I stop, and then I'll listen to the recording, and I didn't. I said it correctly, but you just don't trust yourself some of the times.
Well, no, after you make enough mistakes on a particular section, there might even be something that pronunciation, the way the words are strung together. I found that I can obviously, I can read what I write better than I can what someone else writes. I mean, no matter how good it is. If you're reading something from the immortal bard, it's supposed to be the best writer ever. Still, there's something, if it didn't come out of your head, then you've got to perform it rather than, just go ahead and continue to read it,
And that's why I do, a lot of the e-learning voiceovers for e-learning modules I've created. So I do the script. So that's much easier because I wrote it. Okay. So, and if I make a mistake, I'll just rewrite the script.
Well, if I get tired, I've got enough material for my first podcast for a couple of books, which I would, if I ever get the time to put them together, then I'll put them together, and then I will, of course, read my own material and do my own audiobook. and then there will be, I think should be probably one of the easiest things that I do, I imagine, because I've already read it all once on a podcast at some point. So, it's exactly the way I would say it. So it should be the easiest script I ever get a hold of.
Well, I've got, as I said, I wanted to do it to try out this new microphone, and what I've got on this one, I've got a foot switch as well. So if I want to do this, I can. gone totally. So you can just take your foot off. You know, you've got to put your foot onto talk.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do just take your foot off, it just disappears. So it's quite good if you want to go and do that, have a cough or something like that.
That would be great for a live podcast. Something going on like that. You can pop yourself in and out whenever you have something without going.
Yeah, that's right.
Pushing the button, it's like.
And because sometimes as well, I do have some of the, how we see the shot here. This is me, my side angle. This is
nice. Camera switching.
My glory. But I do have down in the corner. Don't know if you can see.
There you go. Okay. Yeah.
Can you see the dog? He's not dead.
Yes.
He's
okay.
Asleep. Okay. But sometimes he has a tendency of snoring in a loud snore. So I have to watch that. So then if I'm not saying anything, I'll think, I'll just do the microphone and say, William, quiet on that. So I was playing around. I also was playing around with the MacBook's little built-in camera. I don't know if this will work now. Oh yes, that's a MacBook's built-in camera.
Oh, okay.
And it was really horrible. It was really horrible when I first got it, and I thought, gee, that's shocking. And the camera was so filthy, I'd never cleaned it because I'd never used it, and it was like it must have had some gunk. So I just wiped it, and it actually came up quite nice. So that's Yosemite.
I keep a folded index card over top of the camera when I'm not using it. Well, you don't worry about any dust or anything like that.
Well, that's right. Well,
I like how you can. I like how you can fade your from camera to camera like that. That's really cool.
I did one the other day, and freaked them out. Somebody, because when I was doing the show, said, "Well, something happened on your screen." And because what I did was, I think this is the one. I can't remember if this is the one. This one, yeah.
Oh, nice.
It said a ghost or something went over your screen. But I said, no, it's just the lights, because I had a couple of shots that were the same, but it was, just swipe. But that's a nicer one. That's on the MacBook. That's why I'm actually looking into the screen a little bit better there, because my camera's up here. So that's where I'm not looking into it too much. So.
Your microphone there looks really beefy. It looks really like heavy, like really, really strong, big microphone.
Well, this was what it came in. It looks like a coffin made for a microphone. I thought, that was it. It's quite a great big box for that microphone. It comes with the shock mount, and that's. But it's supposed to be. Some of the people somebody who recommended it does professional voiceovers at the high end, not just like me, who were having a play around with it, and they got this instead of the Neumann, because they said it was the same equivalent to about the $1,300 Neumann.
Wow! So which model is it there? You say it's a Rode?
No, this one's not the Rode. This was the
the C1.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. The other one that's got I forget what it was, but it's about $249 your money from Amazon. I forget what it was now, so it doesn't have it just written on here, of course.
Seems like to me they would be proud of such a thing.
And it's you speak into it. That's where it's right on that end there. It's not coming out the end. It is coming out. It is on that end there. So, but it is quite, as I said, quite beefy. So you feel as though you've got some sort of your money's worth for that as well. So
sounds substantial, and if anybody breaks in the house, you should be fine. You can use it as a weapon.
I do have the other one lurking in the bushes. Just this one.
Yeah, I saw that one before.
The Rode. That's the Rode Procaster, and that's really good, because that's the dynamic one. So you wouldn't hear the noise of the MacBook Pro, which you do on this one.
Okay.
But this one gives a better sound. This one is, if you're not right in front of it, you don't hear too much, because it's like yours. It's a dynamic, so it's better for the sound of that one. So,
yeah, I keep my NT1-A in the sound booth back there, so I can close up, so I don't have a lot of external noise. That's what I recorded the audiobook on.
And I've got mine just up there, the NT1-A.
I had something else come out this week. I did a voiceover for Porchlight Family Media. They do really, really cool stuff, and it was actually published this week. Just a second. It's a podcast called Voices in Vox. Not voices, it's Verses in Vox. And Verses in Vox. Anyway, I can if you do you have the thing here to where you can go ahead and go and watch go to another website, because I wasn't able to do that last week.
So
what you can do is I did a short link for it. holbrooknewmedia.com/voices1. It's holbrooknewmedia.com/voices1.
That was good. So did you put the music in there as well?
No, what's really cool about this is they pick the poem. Of course, it's a classic poem. I did the narration, my own interpretation and the narration of the poem, which they accepted. And then there's original music that is composed. There's original photography that is done for each one. And like you say, they put them out every so often, at least once a month, or, a couple in a month. Sometimes they'll come out 3 in a row pretty quickly, but just whenever they get done with a full production. And then it's produced by JD Sutter. He's the Porchlight Family Media guy. First time I'd worked with him, but I mean, it's a lot of fun. It really is. And like you say, they compose the music based on the cadence of my voice, I guess, and my interpretation of it. And then, of course, they have several of them that are by several other people. This was the first one I've done, but it was a lot of fun. It really was. And that came out in the last 3 days. So,
that's really good. So that's just a labor of love, one, or
yeah, like you say, it's like 5 or 6 or 7 people involved in the production of one of them. And of course, you get a plug for your website. If you go and it says my name there, if you click on it, it goes to my website. That type thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Short form like that. It isn't like it takes that long to do.
No.
I read over it while I was at work. I have a little laptop thing I showed you last week, and I read over it while I was at work and got the idea of how I was wanting to interpret it and everything like that. Came home, popped in the booth, did about 3 takes on it just to make sure, pick the best one, set it in, and then, just waited. And then after they hear my voice, then they have to compose the music, and so it takes a while, but it's really a good thing they're doing there, because it brings some really classic poems out, and it's actually not just a dry poem out there. It's not just in print either. It's just dramatized,
And that's good, because I'd listen to things like that, but I'd never read a poem.
Oh, you wouldn't?
Listen to that because I wouldn't. I'm not sort of into read, but when somebody says it nice, you can really get into it. I like the way people say things like that. But when I read them, it's just the way I read it in my head. It's not very nice. But when you get somebody else, it's a bit more meaningful. So that's really nice.
That was my first go at poetry, as far as like anything out in public like that. Of course, everything I've done before was prose. So I had no idea. And poetry is completely subjective. I mean, I didn't know if they would like my interpretation. I did a demo for them, and they accepted me and said, hey, we have some that that, we think your voice will be good for. And then this was the first one they had given me. So, when I first do it, I don't know if they want a different interpretation. I just did my best with it, but I turned it in about an hour later, got an email that said, excellent, sir. And then that was about a month and a half ago. So, they got all the composing done and everything. It's really cool. But Porchlight Family Media, that's who's doing it.
Well,
it's really cool. Verses in Vox.
We've had this week with our podcast, had a few extra guests and have been getting a few more views than normal. And I said it was good, because you can see we're getting better because we're getting criticism. So that's perfect. Good. Yes. I thought, well, Brick said, why? I said, why are you happy with that? I said, well, people aren't complaining. Nobody's watching. So there's always got to have somebody who doesn't like what you're saying or what you're doing. So,
well, when you get big enough, that's when somebody doesn't like it. Whenever you're a little guy down here, you're small, then nobody says anything negative at all, because you're really not
insignificant.
Yeah, the insignificance of it all. But whenever you have arrived, when the trolls show up, you know that you are an item now.
But like they said, oh, you were just talking, you weren't interviewing. They said, well, we don't plan to interview people. There's plenty of people asking the normal questions. We just want to have a chat with them. And that's what it is. And like us here, well, you're not interviewing me saying, now, Jeffrey, what did you get up to this week? And what's your philosophy on, reading poetry in public? Would you do it?
Don't.
You do it? Or would you have to be, well, that's right. Do it in the privacy of your own place and that as well. So with that, do you use, with I'm looking at, say, YouTube and that, do you posting many things on YouTube or?
Well, I haven't been because, well, for one thing, like you say, I still work full time. There's a lot of overtime that I've been working lately. And so remember I told you last week I was going to get started on the editing. Well, I didn't even get started until later in the week. And then I did quite a bit of it on my night off this past night. Haven't had the time. I'm working overtime. I come home and it's like, then I just go to sleep and that's it, so.
And the thing is with the editing, a lot of other things you can do, like you can watch things while you're doing it, but with the editing, you can't do anything else.
No,
because it's quiet, you've got to have your headphones listening, whereas other things, like if you produce, you can be doing that while watching a podcast or listening to that or doing that. But with that, you just can't. You've just got to watch what you're doing yourself. The reason why I asked is because have you seen what you can do these days on YouTube? You can do a podcast on there because you can live stream.
Okay, I know you can do that off of. You can live stream from here now, right?
Well, you live stream on here, but you can also live stream on YouTube.
Okay, and I know through Google Hangouts, I've seen people doing that.
Yeah, well, that Google Hangouts, you can do that, but on YouTube now they have the facility. You can schedule so instead of just having a video up there, you've got a live stream.
Oh,
and then then it's recorded for you in prosperity as well. So you can decide. So it's as it is, and then you can put up an edited version if you want as well, and leave the raw one up there as well. So that's good because some of these places, there's plenty of these ones that stream it, but they cost charge you quite a bit. Say some of the good ones about $100 a month, I think it is, to have a good streaming thing, and that's just way too expensive for the likes of me who may never do it, but you just wanted to. But I saw that Stephen Hayward where you saw in the intro that we had on the show. One thing he does, he actually does his show, he streams it on YouTube, but also puts the feed through Blab. So he has it going through the screen like we have, but just one screen with the full show like I had it going, but that is the seat, so only the one thing. And then he uses Blab as his chat room. And I thought that was quite good.
That would be cool.
So then he, uses Blab and says like we have here, all the people that are in the chat room at the moment, all typing their questions. I'm being sarcastic here, of course.
Exactly.
I did actually have one person subscribe to it, and I just hope she turns up because it's Dawn J. Mahoney, somebody I've known for years. I've never met, but I think she's in Washington. I think she's over your side of the country. Oh, no, that's, yes. Which side of the country is that? Yes.
Well, Washington State would be on the other side. Washington, D.C. is not too far from here, actually. It's a 3 hours. It might be 4 hours from here. Yeah.
That's the way I thought it, but she subscribed, so I thought, I was looking. Hopefully, it's not too early in the morning for her because it'll be later. So because it might be 6:30. Because at least she's not in Los Angeles, which is 3:21.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm available this time of the day is because I'm already awake after having worked all night, and of course, on my nights off, I'm still awake anyway. So the only way to work night shift is to keep the same schedule even on your days off.
Well, that's the thing, is because if you can just wreck it on the weekend because then you've got to get back to work on Monday, but you just you're dead because you've got into a normal life again. But you say, well, that is your normal life, and as long as you do that, that's you work your way around it. And there's usually other people that does the same thing. So the people you knock around with usually are used to your time scheme, so they don't invite themselves around, or you don't go out on a Sunday night or whatever. What is Monday night? Would it be?
Well, for me, I actually have Tuesday and Wednesday off. Is what I have.
Yeah. Oh, well,
And
that's
then I
even.
work through the weekend. So being sociable is not a big deal. My wife is actually disabled. So
Mhm.
we went out the other day and went to a birthday party some friends had, and it's tough on her to do that. She loves to do it, but it's tough on her to do it, and she can't really go anywhere without me. So, but we went and did that, and it was a lot of fun. But she's kind of been down the last couple of days after that. She's got to recuperate. She has lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and that type of stuff.
Oh.
So it's kind of tough on her to get out. So people aren't generally coming over because I have such an odd schedule.
Hmm.
But like you say, I know a few years ago, whenever my father-in-law was, before he died about 23 years ago,
Hmm.
they had just gotten cable where they were at, and they had, 12 or 15 channels, like, woohoo, there was no internet. There was nothing that he could actually access. And so he was really alone. Now, even if you're an invalid, complete invalid,
Mm.
you have so many things available just in this short period of time in our lifetime that you don't have to be alone. I mean, you are, I know
Oh.
people, my mother, she's 76, and she's on Facebook and YouTube and everything all the time, just constant, flow of people connecting with each other. It just wasn't available a few years ago. It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, I was thinking that before. I thought, years gone by when people are stuck in, what did
Hmm.
they do? But now, like you said, you can get online, you can do things like this. So
Hmm.
as long as you've still got your mind, really, and some uh, sort of mobility, even if you're in a wheelchair, you could get yourself sat in here and just communicate all around the world. It sort of came to me when it all sort of started. I was still working in retail, and back in the retail days, I ended up with a social life or with friends in the similar sort of way you did, because in retail you was always working the times when everybody wasn't, because that was the main time, and so you had your days off during the week, and you didn't have all these people around. So one of my old customers was an old Jewish fellow, and I sold him a computer.
Hmm.
And, he says, I'm an old man. He says, you tell me three things. That's all I want to know. And he says, then I come in to talk to you next week for another three things. I said, oh, okay. And so each week he came in and he asked me three questions. He said, I'm only going to ask you three, not four, just three. And he asked me that and he was, I thought, how you do, you think, yeah, this fella's not going to learn much on that. And I kept in contact with him for, quite a while. And then he started inviting me round for Sunday night tea. And he had his, because he used to have a carer come and make him tea on the weekend. So he used to say, I'll get my money's worth. You can come too, so she can cook for you as well. And so then he would say, I'll ask you my three questions if you don't mind. I said, I would love to. And we got to be good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did, he was a Holocaust survivor. Well,
Wow.
he left Germany in 1938, and he showed me a picture of all the family, dozens of people, and saying, this is me here. And he said, all of them are gone.
Oh, wow.
He said, all of them are gone. But then he came to me and he said, you know what? He said, all of them are gone. I found this one. At the end, with the things I showed him and how to get on the internet, he actually found one of them that he thought was had died, and he organized a trip to New York from Australia, and he found them, and then he brought them over to see him. And I thought that really sent to me, that was the one thing I said, you're never too old, and if you've got a purpose, you'll do it. But as I said, he had a purpose, and if he didn't, he probably would have never done that. But he invested in a decent computer. But this was in the early stages of the internet, where it cost you quite a bit. But he had enough money to keep online for that, because back in the early days, it would cost you about $50 or $60 a week, wouldn't it, to keep on the internet if you was there. But that really brought home to me that, the internet, there's so many things you can find, and if you persist, but there's so much there. Sometimes you think, am I ever going to be able to find something? Well, it's just the persistence. And he said, I had nothing better to do So I had hours and days just searching and searching, and thought, I know this name, and I went and found this. Well, that sounds familiar, and then he actually found them. So I thought, after all those years thinking that he was the only one, but found somebody else on there. But it's quite interesting.
We had a situation like that as well. My wife, her dad had been married before for quite a while and had a daughter. And there's a picture of her when she was 20 years old holding my wife as an infant. My wife was the third child of the second marriage. So, and she visited at one time, and then they never saw her again. They wrote back and forth for a while, my wife's father and then the daughter, and then everything just kind of, anyway, they just basically lost her. Didn't know where she'd went to. She was living her own life out in California. And of course, we're on the other side of the United States. And so my wife, though, always wondered about her. And every time she wanted to find out, ask questions, they say, oh, you don't need to know that. It's no big deal. But here she had a sister out there. And so she early on tried to find whatever information there was available. And of course, then there'd be a big lull because you'd reach a dead end or whatever. But then all of a sudden, when the internet became available, this has been 6 or 7 years ago. I used to work at a finance company, and so I had gotten fairly good at skip tracing, and I had gotten to the point to where I was making phone calls, and I talked to someone out there who knew her, and the next morning during business hours, I was going to try, I was going to call her and try to get a hold of her. Well, that very night, my wife we had never been so close, and it was exciting. My wife knew what high school she had gone to, and so she got on there and was just happened to be looking because we were thinking about her. And all of a sudden it said, hey, here she is. It's her birthday. We're having a reunion, but she's having a birthday. Would you like to wish her happy birthday? And she's like, so she went ahead, just got on there and said, yeah, happy birthday and all that. And hey, I'm so-and-so. And, and within about an hour, she got a reply back. And I'm talking 30 years. I mean, more than 30 years that she had been trying to find this lady, wanting to, and then what she could over the years trying to find her. And all of a sudden on the internet, they met. And then they came out, and she lived out in Washington State. And then they came out here and visited, and I've got video of them, the first meeting and the first hug and all that stuff, all the emotional stuff. And it's just amazing because the internet has made this type of thing possible. It isn't something that
that's right.
we could do before, then suddenly we did,
Well, like they always say with the computers and that, it's making us all unsociable. And I can tell you now, I've probably met more people, talked to more people, been more outgoing since the internet and all that than I ever would before. Like I started going to America. My first trip was in 1982, I think. It's the first time I went to America. And I've been quite a lot of times and really never met anybody or talked to anybody except you go to the tourist places, you talk to other travelers, and that's about it you talk to. And then with the internet, I got on there looking for how to when I was getting into e-learning, thought, how do I do this e-learning? And I cottoned onto this this YouTube channel that had a few tips on how to do this Captivate 5 thing. So I started following this fellow doing this YouTube, and that I thought, gee, this is quite interesting, and kept watching it and talking. Then I'll go to one of these conferences, and then I kept in contact with him. So I met up with him at one of these conferences, and met him and his wife that was at the conference, and had a half an hour chat, meet up with him in real life, and then we sort of struck a real good friendship. And now that's Rick, who I do the show with. And I've been a few times now. And as I said, but before that, but he's invited me, and I've stayed at his house, in Camarillo. And I thought, I would never have done that before. I wouldn't have gone up to somebody in America. I said, hey, I'm from Australia. Do you want to be my friend? You wouldn't do that, but you have something in common, and you've got. And the great thing was if you ever meet new people, it's always, what do we talk about? But when I met Rick the first time, we couldn't stop because we were all friends, because we've been chatting for 2 years or something. You just like me and you. We 6 months ago, I never knew who you was. I don't 6 months or 12 months ago, and I never knew who you was. But now we talk, and so we just, if we met in person, we'd say, "Oh, yeah, that's right," and we just start chatting. We don't think, "Oh, okay, yep, oh, hi, what's your name?"
Awkward.
Awkward. Hey, but
Awkward.
I tell you what, though, that's the thing is with getting older, I don't care. I think that's the thing is when you're in your 20s, you think that's awkward, but when you're getting older, you think, if I've got nothing to say, I'll just keep my mouth shut. But you don't. When you feel like that, and like I've done that before, and it says, I'm bored, I'm going home, I've got better things to do. When you're younger, you sit around and say, I'll wait for somebody to go. I can't stand this. When you get older and people say, oh, that's right, he's getting a bit older, he needs to go. They understand that. But when you're in your 20s, you can't do that. But when you get over 50, you can say, I've got better things to do than sit around here. I could be I could be at home doing the ironing.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That tells them how excited I was with their company or something.
One of the things that I really enjoy is the fact that where I work at, there was this massive retirement about 3 years ago or so, and everybody older than me, not everybody, but a lot of people older than me retired, and then all of a sudden they hired a whole bunch of people that were my daughter's age. And so I am working around people in their 20s, and I'm 52. So I'm working around people. Well, what's funny is though, I spent a lot of time watching kids TV with her, so I can actually discuss video games and the shows that they grew up on and stuff like that. But the other day, one of them said something to me about, well, don't you care what people think of you? It was just a joke about something. Don't you care what people think of you if you say that or if you do that? And I said, no, I really don't. I am past 50, and the older I get, the less I really worry. Now, I don't do things or say things that, I wouldn't want somebody to hear me say, but I don't really worry as much about what people think of me simply because I'm old enough not to really worry about it.
Well, that's quite true, because one of the things with even later on doing the voiceovers for e-learning modules and doing all these things, I remember in my 20s, I could not stand to hear my voice on a recording. You would run a mile away, and I can understand. But then I came to the realization when somebody said, well, we're doing that, I thought, well, hang on. Everybody has to put up with my voice anyway. So unless I go around just not speak to anybody, it's out there, whether it's horrible or not. And I was doing training sessions, so I thought, well, they have to listen to me there. So, hey, well, I might as well record it and do that. And I actually had one of these e-learning courses, and I thought, geez, not a radio announcer, not that. But then that's where it comes from. They want normal people, because there's plenty of these radio announcers, but they said, well, they don't want that. They want to say it's got to sound like it's somebody who could be doing that, the course itself. So, and I thought it was easier for me to record it and have a consistent message than me standing up there saying it probably every time I present it, sometimes differently. And I used to really dread getting up in front of people. But now, like you said, it's because you don't really, exactly what you said. I'm not going to be horrible or nasty or things I wouldn't say, but I don't care if people think I'm, what they're thinking. Whereas when you're younger, you do, all you think is, oh, they're going to think I'm silly. But, people don't. And that's another thing with the internet. People are more understanding. Whereas years ago, oh, you're doing this, but no. Oh, so you're doing a video. That's fine. But if you did that 20 years ago, like I know, if I got in front of my, a beta cam when I first got it in 1984, you said, oh my God, who do you think you are? Wouldn't they? They would have think. But now, if you don't get in front of the camera, they say, oh, what sort of an idiot are you? You've got to be out there. You've got to have something against your name. So, but as I said, what we're on, like here, this blab, it's really when I was in my 20s, this is like science. Well, they never even had this sort of thing in science fiction, did they?
No, not specifically. I mean, the only thing was the a watch, Dick
Yes, the
Tracy's watch
watch.
he could talk on and stuff, But the idea of video on the watch, that was, okay, audio was good. Audio was amazing in science fiction, and no one had even conceived of being, having video on your watch really so much. It's just
No.
something else. One of the things that I think is funny is I never really did have a problem with my voice. And the reason why was because when I was a little kid, we had a family singing group. We sang in church and we traveled several states around the area and stuff like that. And we actually took some basic voice training for our voices, and we're trained to sing, all four parts and, stuff like that. So, and then I did a little bit of public speaking whenever I was in high school. And so people, as soon as my voice changed, which it changed on stage, by the way,
Okay.
it was exciting. Yeah. And so I was singing high tenor with my natural voice. And then as soon as it finally finished changing, I was singing bass for the group. then my brother went lower than me and I started singing baritone. So, but I never was, as soon as my voice changed, everyone said I sounded like a radio announcer. So, I mean, so I was like, oh, okay. Even when I was in high school, they had me MC a pep assembly or two, and I played a game show host, at this pep assembly. We did a little skit, and I played a game show host. So I've been hearing my voice since I was 5 and never, and then we did, when I was in the 8th grade, we made an 8-track tape, believe it or not. Way back in the day. And so, so I'm used to hearing myself sing. I'm used to hearing myself speak. And I was on stage before I realized I was supposed to be scared about it. I didn't have the stage fright thing because I'll tell you what, I'm supposed to be scared about this.
I'll tell you what I'll do if we're going to catch up again next week. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have next week. I will play you a recording, and you'll see why I was always a bit funny about my voice. One of the things is like where I had, which you didn't have, is because you still are where you grew up. You're still in the Whereas I came from northern England, came to Australia in 1970, and coming from up north in England, you speak like that with a lot of ups and downs. And then when you come to Australia, they say it's not up, it's up, and you speak, and then so everybody's got a thing against how you sound anyway. So you get a thing in your mind about you sounding different. Whereas if I was in England, you wouldn't have sounded different there. So,
well, I do sound different than the average person here. The average person here, now they exaggerate it whenever you see someone on the screen, but people from West Virginia are supposed to talk like this. And I do know some that do. However, I just kind of purged it out of my vocabulary whenever I, kind of had that voice training. I mean, and so people think I'm from out of state. They have a hard time pegging me. But since everything we see on television is either out of New York or LA,
well, that's right. Yeah.
It's really not a problem if you speak more precisely. And again, I definitely have certain ways I pronounce certain words, or I'll say, well, yeah, I figure so. I'll say that instead of, I reckon so, I guess so, whatever. And so
coupon, like we said last week, coupon
or coupon. Yeah. So, coupon. Yeah. And so there are certain ways you pronounce things, but, and that creeps into my speech. But as far as like speaking like a local, I really don't. People don't think I'm from here whenever they hear me.
There was just, I was listening to a podcast when I was walking to see, because I went to see my mother tonight and took the dog down. So I always have listened to podcasts when the sort of downtime while I'm walking down there. And it was an American show, and they had a Canadian on, and he said something about a soldering iron. And the host picked him up, says, you can tell he's Canadian, it's solder.
Solder.
But it's solder.
Yeah, it's spelled SOLDER. We pronounce it solder.
Yeah, but they
But I
he
think
said
that's softer. Yeah.
yeah, but that's what they said. You're Canadian. He's obvious. Oh, sorry, I had to pick him up on that. He's Canadian. I said, well, I think that would. I mean, I don't know, but that's a very strange. I've always thought that's very strange because I thought there's an L in there. How do you get? Have I always been wrong, or? But I thought that was very strange. Solder, and I always used to get confused when I thought everybody's saying there's this form, FORM,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't. It was just the way everybody in America says forum.
Forum. Yeah.
Yeah,
forum.
but it's form. They don't say forum. They just FORM form.
Forum.
They don't say, yeah, but they say form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought, what's it? It's a forum.
Forum. Yeah, you have to make sure you stick it chin out there. Forum.
But I'm not having a go at the Americans. Every different culture has the same sort of things with different words, and that's
Sure.
like one here. One that the Americans struggle with is Egnishner.
Egnishner?
Yeah, you said it right. That's right. That's how you say it in Australian. Egnishner.
Okay. Well, are you trying to say ignition?
Egnishner. Egnishner.
Egnishner.
Egnishner.
I'm trying to understand what the American interpretation would be of the word because I don't recognize it. It's
that's what I didn't realize we said it like that until some America said, because we had it was when the Australians won the America's Cup.
Uh-huh.
So they had them all out, and then it says, these Australians have these ignitioners, and I don't know what on earth's an ignitioner, and it's an air conditioner.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Ignitioner. Ignition.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I see. I honestly, I did not know. I could not tell what you were saying. One of the things I find it entertaining the way different people from different areas, even of this country and other countries, I find it entertaining, just like they find my accent entertaining or the way I say a particular word. But ridicule is where you cut it off. You don't ridicule people because they say it the way they were where they were at. There's a local town, a little small, tiny town here in West Virginia, spelled Cairo, just like Cairo, Egypt. Well, the local people call it Cairo.
Well, that's how it should, because they know.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't even matter if they're following English rules. If that's what the locals call it, that's what it is.
we have a town up here, MOE.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say that?
Well, it'd be Mo or Moe.
Yeah, Moe. That's how they say Moe.
Okay.
But most people would say, and like what they say, an emu, but the Americans would say emu because that's how it's spelled. EMU. Okay. It was emu, but it's not the way. And there's a lot of things
locally we always said emu.
Emu, but some people say emu, and I thought, but it's a lot like in England, and that you have SHIRE.
Shire.
Say, yeah, but they don't pronounce it like that. They say it's Lincolnshire. They don't. They say shire, not shire, but that's how it's actually spelt. They don't say Yorkshire, Lincolnshire.
I would say Yorkshire is the way I would say it.
And that's
Yorkshire.
That's it, but it's Shire, really.
Shire. Yorkshire.
But you would say Yorkshire. No, you wouldn't. You'd sound silly saying. But that's the thing with the English language. There was I don't know if it's around, but I'd love to get it again. There was a documentary called The Story of English. And it was really fascinating. And they had so many. All the show was in English, but most of it you had to have subtitles. It started out, but it said, this is English, and it was going, deep south in America, and it said you just couldn't understand it, and you had to have the subtitles on it. But it was just quite intriguing, all the different accents, and they said they're all saying the same thing, but it's it really fascinates me. And I do love listening to people, the way they speak as well. And as you said, there's no right or wrong way. It's just, what's the way that the people around you know it, and that, and also as well, like, and even I've conformed because when ever since I could remember when a little kid, my name was not Jeffrey Blanchard, it's Blanchard.
Okay,
We
Blanchard.
Always used to say Blanchard, like the Americans would say Blanchard.
Right. I've always said Blanchard.
Yeah, and so would we. But when in Australia, it's not what Blanchard. So because and so we say we explain it so often, you start to say it. That's that way. It's a bit like an asterisk. I start to sound like the fool now because I say asterisk, and everybody says asterix.
Oh, okay. Yeah, asterisk was what I always say.
But but everybody says asterix, and I thought, no, I'm the one that sounds like the idiot now, so I don't avoid that.
Another thing here, we have, if there's a big tropical storm coming in and it turns into a hurricane, is what we call it. Well, that's what I call a hurricane. However, within about 5-10 minutes of where I live here, there is a town called Hurricane.
Hurricane, yeah. And it's spelt the same way.
It's exactly. It's the same word. Why there is a hurricane so far inland is beyond me, but because nothing ever gets here, it gets broken up by the mountains, and we'll get some rain from a hurricane. But anyway, the place is called Hurricane, and we have a place called Tornado as well. So, but this one's Hurricane, which is funny.
I never realized why, because I always thought, why do they have hurricanes and we don't? Because we have cyclones.
Yes. I know. I understand. In Japan, they have cyclones too.
But I think it is because they spin the opposite way. So a hurricane that way, and the cyclones the other way. I think that was the thing that made the difference on it. But I always thought, but no, they're exactly the same thing. It's just called differently. And like when I was a kid, it used to be called tidal waves, didn't it? But it's not anymore. It's a tsunami.
Yeah, tsunami or a storm surge from the tsunami that's the Japanese word, right? And since they get so many of them, they've claimed the word, and they have the right to it. I'm guessing
they're the experts on being drowned by tsunamis, so
there you go.
They have the right to do that.
The right
that was like that last one in the Japan. That was so frightening because it was probably the first one where they had all the cameras going that you could see it as it happened, and where usually you just see the end effect, you don't see it coming and actually and taking cars off the road and all that. You just don't usually see that sort of thing, but it was quite frightening. That's why I like being in Melbourne. We don't tend to have a lot of extreme weather, so we're usually very, very lucky here. So on that.
That's one of the things I always see on science fiction movies when there's a huge tsunami getting ready to take out New York or, anything really big happening. They always say, well, it's going to go as far inland as the Appalachians, and then that's what's going to stop it. Well, I live in the middle of the Appalachians. So, so we just kind of sit up there and watch it. Oh, look, there it goes, And I even live up on a mountain here in West Virginia. We get different weather here than we do 5 minutes away directly down in the valley. There's a frost line up here that I live above, and there'll be fog above it, not fog below it. We'll get 4 inches of snow. They'll only get 1 down the valley. In 5 minutes, I'm in a different weather zone. It's really funny.
It's like that here where, I used to keep my horse, and it's called a place called Upper Beaconsfield. And where that is, it's, you just say, it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes away from my house. But it's different. It's usually at least 3 to 5 degrees difference in temperature because it's up high. But as you said, it's quite a bit difference in temperature where that is. So I can quite believe that. So, and when everybody says, "Oh, it's quite warm," so well, not where I am, or the other way around as well.
We get a couple weeks later less of spring and fall than they do down the valley. Like the daffodils, or they call them Easter lilies around here, the daffodils will bloom out down there, and then it'll be another week or a week and a half before we get them up here. I mean, I'm serious, and it's just the lower part of my property. I live up on a knoll up on a mountain, and the lower part of my property is just above that frost line. So just right down over the hill there, when you're driving down the mountain, you'll start seeing daffodils, and we don't get them up here for another week or more. They'll have full leaves on down there, and ours will be about half. They're not fully grown because the weather is just that different, and the dividing line is right there at Old Man Homer Criner's house. Is where it's at. It's a guy from down off the hill here. It's out in the country, and they always say old man so and so. That's where the older guy lives at, and he always knows everything, and he can tell you all the old lore and stuff.
It's like the old Englishman. He says it's black over Wilt's tates.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my dad always says when there's a storm coming. It's black over Will's tates, Will's potatoes.
Right.
But some of these old sayings. What on earth is he talking about?
My mother-in-law had this old saying. I mean, she has a bunch of them, and I love old sayings and just would love to know the origin of some of them. Well, she was raised up the river from where we're at here. And one day I looked at her and I said, "That sure was a good cake you made last week." And she said, "Hinton's up the river." Like I was hinting for a cake, for her to make another cake. The thing is, though, the town of Hinton was up the river from where she was raised at.
Oh,
there's a town called Hinton. Yeah, Hinton, and so
hint up the river. So
right, Hinton's up the river, and so I was just hinting for her to make another cake, and she said, "Well, Hinton's up the river," and so I can't, even if it spreads out from there and goes to some other places, that saying, people would be using it that had absolutely no idea of the actual origin. And I always thought that was kind of a fascinating saying. It was. Cool.
I like those when people and where I work, I went to their head office once, and there was a group of them, and I said, "What are you doing?" They said, "We're writing down all these sayings that we say, and we have no idea what they mean, the where it came from." So they had a big list, and I said, "How many you're up to?" They said, "We're up to about 400. They said, "Because there's all these things." They said, "We say that, and we all know what it means. But why do we say that?" And like it was in Germany, and was saying like they have a few different sayings like this: "Ich habe Kohldampf." I have cabbage steam.
Steam.
I have cabbage steam, and that means I'm hungry. But where on earth did that come from?
Huh.
But they said that's where, and there's another saying that they have there is the Schlange war zu lange. So it says and what that means is the queue is very long. The queue is long. But
as in the line, I know they call it queues.
But what it means is the Schlange war zu lang. The snake was long.
Okay.
But as I said, that's what they don't have. But that's what the snake was long.
Huh.
Okay. And I thought,
well, we say people are, the line was snaking out into the parking lot.
But that's what they say.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what they say instead of queue, because I don't think they have a word for queuing. I don't know where that word queue came from. We just know it means all these people standing in a queue, but I don't know what it really means.
We don't use it here. It's mostly anytime I've heard it's in relation to England, everybody queuing up. Now I've heard that term here, but people here, they're standing in line. Well, how long's the line? Oh, it's all the way down around the block. Is the way we say it here. Now queue, I understand it because I've been exposed to English people saying it, queuing up or whatever. Now we will use queuing up if you are getting ready to use a microphone and you're checking.
Okay. Oh, yes.
And you're checking. Oh,
now, yes, your point. So now when you do that, you've got to smile.
Right. Oh, yes. Here's your cue. That would be the person, the prompter is giving you your cue. That type of thing, It's like,
and I just thought about that the other week was remember when it used to have film, you used to see the Q dot on the film. So when you be 30 seconds before the reel ended, there was a little Q. And so you knew when it was coming to the end. And even on the TV shows, you used to have that. So you used to know when the ads were coming up, because when you had the Q dot came up, and I thought that just disappeared, didn't it, with video? And then all of a sudden, we never saw it again. So
it's sad. It's sad how everything changes, but then again, there are things that have gotten better. There are things that in many people's opinion have gotten worse, like presidential candidates.
Well, that's right. So, when do you have your election? Is it November this year? It's November this year, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's not November this year for the general election. What's happening right now is each political party, the two major parties anyway, are trying to decide who is going to run for them. And then, so we have primaries, and some of them have what's called a caucus, which is basically a town meeting. They all get in there and they vote. But in West Virginia, we have a primary, which happens in May. We're so late in the process that it's generally determined before they actually get to us for a primary. Sorry about that. And then then after the primaries are all over in the spring, then they have the actual nominating conventions, both parties do, and then they come out of there with whoever they think it is, and everybody gets behind them, and then they start going at each other. But in the primary season, you'll find the candidates, the presumptive leaders, start to snipe at each other and the other parties as well, just like the video you showed me there.
Yes,
you know, like that. And so they will actually start sniping at each other when it, you know, in the arrogance that they're going to be the nominee, you know. So, and then you have the final actual general election happens in November.
Okay. Well, that's what I love here, though, with our system is they're only allowed 12 weeks, and then that's it.
There was somewhere over in Europe, was it in Germany or someplace, where they give them 2 weeks, and they have I think that'd be the best thing ever.
And what
we don't have to watch those ads on TV anymore.
what we do have as well, I think, I don't know if there's still, I think there's two. They also have a cutoff, so they have you know, 12 weeks.
Yep.
But I think the last 2 weeks you're not allowed to say anything, because it's usually always the one who's got the last word in gets more votes. So they do cut it off. So and I think that's good, because I don't think I could stand that because you have 2 years worth of it, don't you? Really, pretty much of a year preparing for it, and a year for all the primaries and all that. You have just about 2 years before the thing. So the person who's governing, who's in, they can't do anything for the last 2 years of their term. So, and the first 4 years of their term, all they're doing is trying to get re-elected for the second one.
Exactly.
And then by the last two, they can't do anything else because they've got to go. So they've really got no incentive to do much.
Oh, no, I agree. There were people who within days after the last election, the last primary, I mean, after the last general election, that were making statements that were kind of becoming clear that they were going to be running in 4 years. And then some of them have been actively running for 2 full years. I agree with you. I would much rather see a system like you have there, because there's just so much going on. I think let people state their positions, let them have some debates, shut up, and then let us make some decisions.
And I know I've been there. I was there the last general election, when the last Obama's term, when his election was there, and you hear all that going on, and you say, "Oh, definitely, I'd vote for that one." And then you listen to the next one. "Oh no, I'd vote for that one." And they can really convince you that they've turned it around, and if you listen to it long enough, you'll vote for the one you've listened to long enough. And I thought they're so good at it. Sometimes you go, they look really good, and then you go, "You really believed what so and so said on this one? Well, look at this." And, "Oh, that's shocking."
Well, now I think that there's really no excuse for voters, because we have all the information we need on what they actually did. Yes. Don't believe anything they say about themselves. Don't believe anything they say about a competitor. What did they do? What bills did they vote on? If they were a business person, what did they do with their business? Look at any public speeches they made, and all this is available. But most people have a persuasion up front, conservative, liberal, whatever they are. You know, they could be in the middle somewhere, libertarian, whatever. And they just gravitate toward the ones that are saying what they think.
That's right.
And then they just, and then I mean, they'll get in arguments over it, and it's just so funny to watch. I was registered with one of the parties, and then a few years ago, when my daughter, it came time for her to register to vote, she looked at my wife and she said, "What do you think Dad would do if I registered independent?" And my wife said, "It's none of his business." Which is
No.
We've always told her that, well, however you've registered. And so, we ended up, she registered independent. We had to talk about it. Wasn't very long before I registered independent because I really got tired of being pegged with what the party I was standing with, I had been since I was a teenager, what they were doing. I think, well, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And then people were saying, yeah, but you're this, so this is what you think. No.
That's the thing else I find different with your thing. A lot of people in America sort of stand up for the party that they support.
Right. No matter what.
No, but here, nobody's voted for the one that got in. Nobody. That's it's got to be somebody, because nobody admits. Nobody will. It's like telling somebody how much you earn. You don't do that. And here, people don't say, "Well, who do you?" No, well, that's sort of like really invasive. You don't ask people who they voted for.
Oh, right. Around here,
it's tradition. Yeah, I voted Democrat or Republican. That's a sort of badge of honor. But you wouldn't say whether you voted Liberal or Labor here. But to be quite honest, I think it's like everywhere. Pretty much the same these days. It's just I've just lost a lot of you just don't know what's truth anywhere. They're just, like you said, you've just got to look at what they've produced, and it doesn't matter what party they are. If they've done something good, you take them, because it used to be in the early days that one party used to favor the workers and the other one favored the rich. But now all the parties are filthy rich, the people in politics. They're going to look, that it's that they're all looking after themselves as well. But like you said, you've just got to look at what they've done and what they can do for you in the future.
I'll be honest with you. I would like to see some shakeup in just having the two parties. What you have right now, you have an interesting situation with the Republican parties and Trump. The Republican Party, the leaders of the Republican Party have been putting up who they want for the last 2 or 3 elections. Not necessarily who the people want, but it's who they want. They're going to run the people they want, and they're going to work it out to where they get them there. Well, Trump is an expression of their anger, of the people, the rank and file in the party, of what's going on, because he's just an expression of that anger that they've been ignored down there. The leadership of the Republican Party will do best if Hillary wins.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is because they will maintain their power as they have it now. Anything involving Trump, if he gets the nomination and wins, or if he gets the nomination, or they don't give him the nomination, and then he ends up independent and he wins, they are diminished, because he is the expression of the anger of the rank and file in the party. And the leaders of the party, who are moderates, and again, there's some members are moderates, but that's anger is being put out there. So they'll do best for their own personal power if Hillary wins.
It's quite an interesting time to see what does happen, but then just hope the right person gets in and does the best thing for the country. So, we want the best person to get in, because if America flourishes, the rest of the world does right. If you don't, neither does the rest of the world. So I mean, it's some people say, "Oh, we don't care about what happens." I said, "Well, you better, because it's one of the biggest economies. If they don't do well, it'll flow through. I can tell you that now." So.
Well, everybody's connected now economically, as well as online. Everyone's connected economically. So who gets elected in a particular place? Not just America, but there's smaller countries and other places that, if something hits the fan over there, then it drags our stock market down too. We can be affected by other people as well. And so, we're all in this thing together now.
As you said, years ago, they would never know what happened. So the stock market would never hear about that. It would take months before that. But now if something happens, in 2 seconds after it's happened, something's happened, because the stock prices drop. I always wonder that, but there's always, when that does happen, there's always these people who've got plenty of spare money who would buy up all these stocks and make an absolute killing. And all of a sudden they drop, and then next day they go back up a lot. I thought some people making money. Anyway, I think I must have to go now. It's about 6 minutes past 10. So
It is.
it's been great having a catch up. We really didn't have any subject, but I said I'll have that recording for you next week, so that can be
That'll be cool.
and it's I won't even say what it was, but it's it's quite a strange one. My first voiceover, I think. So
yeah, I definitely want to hear that. I definitely want to hear that.
And I'll just have to put the recorder up to the thing. I think I've got it on my Zoom. I think I've recorded it digitally. I think I've got the file, but I'll just have to find it again. I'm sure I've got it somewhere. So anyway, so we've recorded this. So this is recorded for prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
So shall I not make it live, or shall I make it live and put it up? Hang on. Well, I'll just say, so we'll finish it up there, and I'll just finish the recording. I was been trying to find out all the time with the button to tweet out to say we're on, but I hadn't been able to find. I tweeted, it says share the last 30 seconds, so I tweeted that out. But they used to say tell somebody about it, but that sort of button's disappeared on here anyway. I'll just stop the recording now. So anybody's watching, subscribe to my channel, geoffblanchard.com, or go to YouTube, and then I think Jeffrey K. Holbrook will have his website there. Was it
www.holbrooknewmedia.com.
holbrooknewmedia.com. So check him out. So okay, well, I'll finish the recording out. Bye for now.